So I'm going to talk about the new normal for education. Before I do that, let me give you a quick update on edX. edX is a learning platform where on the one side, we have some of the top institutions in the world, and on the other side, we have learners, corporations from also all over the world taking our courses. So we have some of the world's top institutions on our platform, like Harvard, MIT, Oxford, and of course, Galileo, where this conference is being hosted. And world top companies like Amazon Web Services, IBM, and others who offer courses and programs on edX. We have 155 such partners on our platform. And then on the right-hand side, you see the photos of many of our learners. We have 35 million learners from every single country in the world. Over 1,000 companies have their employees taking our courses at the same time. These companies and learners are not just taking courses, but they are getting credentials. When we started the whole MOOC movement in 2012, people took courses and we did not quite know where things would be, but look where things have come. Today, we are offering not just courses, but we have Microbachelor'S, professional certificates, Micromasters, and even full master's degrees on edX. And the Micromasters and the Microbachelor'S can stack up and create full bachelor's degrees as well. So we've come a long way. And today we've issued over 2 million certificates in over 3,000 courses from all our partner institutions. And people who take these courses are using the certifications to get advancements in their careers. And I'll talk more about some of these advancements later. So let me start. So that was a quick overview of edX. Let me start discussing where we are today. Around February and early March, the whole world that we live in completely changed. From education, for example, being almost 100% in person, and there's only 3% online learning in the world. By the time we came into the first or second week of March, the whole world had completely shifted to an online model, and learning became 100% online. And so as we transitioned into the COVID era, if you follow the green curve here, that shows the step function change from 3% online to 100% online at all universities and campuses. And so I'd like to share with you some of the things that we saw all around the world as we transitioned into COVID and what this means for us. First of all, we saw it almost became like the year 2012 again. So 2012 was labeled the year of the MOOC by Laura Papano in the New York Times. And she talked about how this was a whole huge movement. And this was in 2012. A lot of hype, a lot of excitement. And you see some images from courses on edX that were offered at that time. In case you're wondering what the top left-hand image is, in my class that I teach on edX in circuits, I actually chop up a laptop using a chainsaw as part of my circuits course. And hopefully I have intrigued you enough that you will go check out this course on edX.org. This was in 2012, a lot of hype. And then the same thing happened again this year. The whole hype for MOOCs came back. It was like 2000 all over again, 2012 all over again. And here you see an article by John Marcus in the business section of Wired, where he talked about how students are stacking up credentials en route to degrees. So this became 2012 all over again. But this time, something was different. Something was very different at this time in 2012. What was different? I think the difference came about because of all of you. LW MOOCs was launched, when was it? I think it was 2014 or thereabouts. And we've been learning so much since that time. And we've learned so much about MOOCs and online learning that today's online learning is informed by so much of what we've learned. I'll just give you one example of what we learned, something that I learned. We offered the MIT's circuits course, which is offered on edX. We offered it online, 100% online to students on the MIT campus. So can you believe this? So, excuse me. The residential campus students at MIT took this MOOC course on edX in fall of 2016, and then again in spring of 2017, completely online for credit. And we did a study. We compared the performance and behavior of the students. About half the students were in the on-campus class and half the students were taking the fully online class. And a very famous study that came out of Ann Marshall, she's a researcher in 2017, and there's a paper that is published. If you Google Marshall 2017 and MIT Circuits course, you will find this paper. The online campus students, the students who were taking the online course while they were on campus reported significantly less stress, one whole standard deviation less stress than the people in the campus course. Same exam was given to the students on campus, on paper, and also the same exam given to the online students, and they also took it on paper for the exam. And the performance was within the margin of error of the experiment. So this is just one example of something that we learned where MOOCs could be offered for credit, that people could take quality courses and get credit for it. And in this case, this was an MIT. There are many, many, many such studies done in universities all over the world. San Jose State University did a study for many semesters in a row. At the UC Berkeley, Armando Fox and David Patterson have been teaching in a blended model with their courses since early 2012. And so we've learned so much this time around that we can inform decisions around MOOCs using the real data. As COVID hit, we also saw a huge upsurge in traffic from all over the world. So data that we saw comparing the week of April 11th compared to the week of March 7th. Okay, so week of March 7th was before COVID, and the week of April 11th this year was once COVID had hit in many parts of the world and growing all over the world. We saw 10 times more registrations on edX than in the period before COVID. 10x, not 10%, but 10 times more learners were coming to edX. And in fact, in the month of April, we added 5 million new registered learners to the edX platform. And 5 million matched the total number of learners, new learners that came to edX in 2019. So in 1 month of April, we were able to accomplish as much as we were to accomplish in the whole year of 2019. So the numbers were staggering, huge uptick in traffic. And one question that people fail to ask us is, how did we manage? Imagine if at your university, instead of having 200 people in your class, 2,000 people showed up. We could just not manage in a campus class. But online, nothing. It just continued normally. Of course, edX engineers and support team had to work extra hard, but because the whole thing is supported by the cloud, it seamlessly scales, and it simply worked. And one of the beauties of the scale and the seamless quality is one of the beauties of online learning. So we asked the learners who were coming during COVID, why are you coming to edX? Why were learners coming to edX in such large numbers during these COVID times? And this chart shows some of the results. And we've taken these surveys many times. We took it in April, we took it in May, June, and the results are, percentages are more or less the same. So as not surprisingly, 38% said that they had more time and wanted to learn something new. So 38% of learners had more time. So I, for example, don't have to spend 2 hours going back and forth to my work. I'm working from home. All of edX is working from home. And so I saved time. And so 38% of the people had more time and they came to learn something new. But 25%, 1 in 4, came to edX for the same reason they've been coming before, which is to upskill in their current job. They had a job. Maybe they were working as an engineer in a company, and they were coming to upskill and learn new techniques and new skills. Maybe they were taking a Lean Six Sigma from TUM University on edX. So 25% were coming to upskill in their current jobs. 16% were students, and these were students at schools and universities that were replacing their education with online learning on edX, 16%. And then about 11% were employees at companies that had been laid off, that lost their jobs, or they had been sent home and they could not work. And so they were coming to edX to learn, and while they were at home, to acquire new skills so that when the pandemic is over and jobs open up again, they can get a new job. So upskilling and reskilling continues to be a major, major theme, even during COVID-19. And we did a broader survey. Of not just edX learners, but of people all over the world. And what we're hearing people say during COVID times is that 58% are telling us that COVID-19 is encouraging them to seek additional education. So almost 2 out of 3 people surveyed, and these are broad people around the world, not just edX learners, surveyed, said that COVID-19 will impact their decision to seek additional education. And almost half are saying that they're more likely to enroll in an online course. And because it's hard to go to an in-person program, almost half are saying they want to enroll in an online course that will help their career prospects. What is also interesting is that more than 1 in 4 told us that they want to seek additional education so that they can get a job that will be safe in the next pandemic or the next economic downturn. So people are being more thoughtful about what they want to learn. They want to learn skills that will be pandemic proof, that will be safe from an economic downturn. So 1 in 4 want to get that kind of education. Many companies are also coming to edX during these times. As an example, Postmates is a company, and they have a large number of couriers that will deliver things to people. And the Postmates partner with edX, and they offer their workers who are at Postmates or who have been laid off, they offer them access to edX online courses from our partners to upskill and gain new skills and techniques during these COVID times. And so they scaled up access for all of their employees. And so you see a picture of Maggie. Maggie was a courier at Postmates, and she was laid off as a result of the pandemic. So she was let go. And as part of the Postmates program for employees who were laid off, she was able to take courses on edX while she was laid off. So just one example of how companies and edX are working together to help their employees during these COVID times. What are the kinds of programs that learners are taking? We are seeing a huge demand for short programs. During COVID times, learners want to take shorter programs so that they can upskill very quickly and get a better job. You remember the data I showed you a few minutes ago, that 26% are more likely to seek new skills, new education that will help them with a job that will not be impacted by a downturn in the economy or by a future pandemic. And so these are some of the very popular topics: Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, machine learning, digital communication, computer science, data science, business. These are all topics that are extremely popular. And also writing. We are seeing a lot of interest in writing, professional writing programs and courses as well. And so again, short programs and courses as people are coming to learn and upskill during these COVID times. Just one example of a program that we launched about 8 months ago is the Microbachelor'S program. More and more learners, we saw a huge interest in Microbachelor'S, where learners are interested in not just signing up for a full degree, but in signing up for modular programs that are short programs that can stack up and lead to a bachelor's degree. We launched micro-bachelor's programs in January of this year. And today we have micro-bachelor's programs from universities like NYU. They have a program in computer science. They'll be also launching programs in databases and systems. Arizona State University has launched a micro-bachelor's in writing, in professional writing. Remember, writing was very important. WGU, Western Governors, has launched a micro-bachelor's program in IT support. And as I describe micro-bachelor's more, you can get credit for these programs. So as an example, let me talk about the IT program, in micro-bachelor's in IT foundations from Western Governors. There are 3 courses: Introduction to IT, Network and Security, and Scripting and Programming. 3 courses. If you complete these 3 courses and you pass, you can earn a micro-bachelor's certificate in IT foundations. And then you have 2 choices. Once you have the micro-bachelor's certificate, you have 2 choices. One is it will help advance your career. You can post that in your resume, on your LinkedIn profile, and the certificate will help you with career advancement. That is one option. The second option is on edX, we partnered with Thomas Edison State University. And if you complete the micro-bachelor's, you can automatically get credit for it on a transcript at Thomas Edison State University. And so your credit will appear on a university transcript. And the beauty of this approach is that as you complete more and more micro-bachelor's, you can accumulate more and more credit on a university transcript so that you can collect micro-bachelor's and eventually get a full bachelor's degree in IT management. And so the beauty of this is this modular and stacking, where you take modules and it'll help you in your job and show you signs of success, and you've earned a micro-bachelor's and you feel successful. And then you can take the next one, the next one, and the next one, so that you can stack them up and eventually get a full bachelor's degree. And so this model of modular stackable learning, in my mind, is truly the future of learning. So we see many incredible innovations here, right? One is we see modularity, certificates for small pieces of work. Second, we see stackability. How do you stack these up to a full degree? Third, we are seeing credit networks. We are seeing how credit can come from one university while the learning can come from another university. I've been talking about unbundling education for many years, since the start of this conference. And this is one example of how we are unbundling education, where the content can come from one university, the credit can come from another university. And so just one example of the innovation that we can do with online education. And you should think of each micro-bachelor's as a Lego block, where you have a Lego block, and then you combine Lego blocks together, and you ultimately get a degree. And each Lego block can even come from a different university. You can get one Lego block from Arizona State in professional writing. You can get another Lego block from NYU in computer science. You can get a Lego block from Western Governors in IT. And these can combine, and the credits can stack up towards a full degree. Micromasters is another example of a modular stackable credential. And Raquel, who's from Galileo, but they offer Micromasters programs on edX. And Micromasters programs are a piece of a master's degree. Each Micromasters is about 20-25% of a master's degree. And you can complete the Micromasters and you can earn a Micromasters certificate. And that can help you with positive career outcomes. So for example, we do a survey of Micromasters learners on edX who've completed the Micromasters program. And within 3 months of completing the program, we're hearing from 89% of Micromasters certificate earners that they had a positive career outcome as a result of the Micromasters, where the positive career outcome could be a pay raise, it could be a promotion, it could be a new job. And so just some examples of positive career outcomes, 89% of them reported it. And 99% of people who completed the program said that they would recommend the Micromasters programs to others. So these are some real successful outcomes from this modular form of learning. And of course, like the microbachelors, the micromasters can stack up to full master's degrees, whether it's online or on campus as well. So those are examples of some of what we saw during COVID, some of the innovations. And now I'd like to dream a little bit with you about what the future might look like. And so today we are in starting October, and I'd love to brainstorm with you.
Sí, buenos días, ¿me escucha?
Love to brainstorm with you as to what the future might look like. So this chart, I call this the inverted pan curve of the adoption of blended learning. Okay, so I want you to focus on the green curve. So before March 2020, there was very little online learning in the world, 3%. But then when March came, because of COVID, we went to 100% online learning. That's the green curve shooting up. And then this whole year, we're seeing mostly online learning on our campuses. And so that part is the base of the pan, the heating surface of the pan. It's an inverted pan. Now, January will come around from 2021, and most of our colleges and universities will try to go back to fully on-campus teaching. But you know what? We're never going to go back to the old approach. We're never going to go back to the old normal, because most students and faculty have now tried online learning. And even as I talk to my colleagues, those who never tried online learning before, and many of them who were opposed to online learning before, are now either neutral or strongly favorable to bringing in more online learning into campus teaching. In fact, a colleague of mine remarked in March, when he gave his first online lecture, he remarked that that was his most engaging lecture that whole semester. And so I'm hearing from colleagues who'd never taught online before, who did not like online learning, and most of them are liking it or are neutral to it from previously when they were negative about it. And so what will happen next year in January, February, March is we'll never go back to the old normal. There will be a fair amount of online learning left behind in universities. For those of you in engineering, I call this hysteresis, where there is hysteresis in the system. Some of the state is left behind. And then what's going to happen in universities is that as more and more online content gets created, there will be more and more online learning until, I would say, within 3 or 4 years, by August 2025, we will get to a new normal. And the new normal will be blended, where all universities will be, by 2025, teaching roughly half content online and roughly half in person. And to me, that is the new normal of learning, which is the blended model. And particularly for this conference, a large number of you are professors at universities. I think this is a good thing. This blended learning normal is a good thing. It improves learning outcomes. It provides more scale, more flexibility, and it is simply better. Blended learning is better than purely in-person learning or purely online learning. And so we need to move towards this new normal which really was accelerated by COVID-19. To support blended learning on campus, edX has launched a program called edX Online Campus. edX Online Campus is a way for universities to have their students take online courses on, edX. So what is the motivation for online campus? So here you see a professor, Mark Branham. He's a professor at San Jose City College. His comment is, it is very hard to transition your course from in-person learning to online learning. You have to create not just videos, but all the practice problems and grading and exercises, which makes it very, very hard to create online courses. And so his remark is, why don't you use existing digital materials? And by using existing online digital materials, you can very quickly begin teaching online on your campus. You know, just like today you use a textbook, why don't you use an online course for your students like a textbook? And so that is what edX Online Campus does. So here's how it works. So there are courses and programs on the edX online campus, and I'll use an example of San Jose City College. So San Jose City College uses the data science program on edX from Berkeley. It also uses the computer science and Python programming and computational thinking programs from MIT. So these courses from Berkeley, MIT, and other places run on the edX platform. And the instructor, in this case, Mark Branham, is a faculty member at San Jose City College. He provides support to the students, and the students are learning, and they get a certificate from, if they complete the course, they will get a certificate from Berkeley or from MIT if they pass the course. And the local faculty member, like Mark Branham, helps them throughout the course. And this is one example of blended learning, where the content and videos come from online, but the faculty member might work with the students and help them learn the material and so on. So it's one example of how universities are using online materials for their campuses. And edX Online Campus was created to support this model. And to support this model, we provide instructor dashboards. We provide a dashboard for the instructor who can look at how just their students are performing in the courses. And we are making more and more features available to the professors so they can manage their students. We also have the ability for a university to sign up their students to take the edX course using single sign-on. There's also grades passed back, so you can send the grades back into your own systems. So these kinds of approaches make it easy to use digital materials from another university to help your own students. So that is edX Online Campus. So one of the things that we did was we made edX Online Campus available for free to any university in the world, whether they were edX member partners or any other university around the world. We said, look, anybody can come in and sign up their students for free during the COVID times until I believe it is through the end of July. And almost 500 institutions from all over the world signed up for free. And over 120,000 students were able to keep learning on their campuses. And there were almost 60 countries represented among these 450 universities whose students were now taking courses through edX Online Campus. So one question I'm asked a lot is, what did you learn from that experience? When these 450 universities were signing up their students to take the courses, what did you learn? So we are a learning organization, and generally we found that there are three modalities how the faculty and the universities were using our courses. I'll start at the bottom of the list. So one is independent learning. So IIT Bombay was using it that way. With independent learning, the university makes available the courses to their students, to the faculty, to the staff, and even to alumni. And that tells them, hey, look, go and take these courses. And if students take it, they get credit for those courses at the university. The UP Valencia in Spain is another example how they were not only providing courses on edX, but they also had their students on their campus take these courses. So that's independent learning. The second modality is called faculty facilitated learning. We saw this happen as well, where the courses are offered to students, but the university also assigns an instructor or a teaching assistant who might help the students. They would facilitate, they could send reminders, or they could answer questions from the students. And here, the University of Iceland was an example of how they use these courses. In fact, they took 3 courses from different partners on edX, and they bundled them into a program, and they added an exam, and they made it available to the students, and they gave credit for their students. So independent learning is independent, faculty facilitated learning is light touch, and then we have blended learning. Blended learning is where the students at the university are not only taking the course, but the faculty also provide their own instruction and their own content with the online courses. So the IT University in Pakistan is one example in Lahore, where their students take the Micromasters in data science from University of California, San Diego, on their campus. And they assign a teaching assistant and an instructor who offers blended learning for the students. Another example, the San Jose City College example I talked about is also a blended learning. So these are three models: blended learning, faculty facilitated learning, and independent learning. And the three differ in the amount of the degree of touch, the degree of teaching that is provided by the local campus instructors. So here's an example. I want you to meet Carlos. Carlos, a student at UB Valencia, one of our great partners from Spain, from Valencia. I visited their campus. It's an absolutely beautiful campus. And what he did was, so UP Valencia offers these courses to students on their campus. And what Carlos did was he was completing a degree on the campus. And he said, you know what, everybody's talking about deep learning and machine learning and artificial intelligence, so let me go take a course. So he took a professional certificate program in deep learning from IBM while he was a student at UP Valencia. And so he said this was a great opportunity for him, even while we were all in the midst of a crisis. So what is interesting with all of this is that edX and our partners, you heard me mention several partners. We have a large number of partners, a huge group from Latin America as well, from Colombia, from Argentina, from Guatemala, from Mexico, many universities and learners from the Latin America, and all of the stuff that we've been doing to prepare for this new normal has not just happened during COVID. Our partners and edX have been working on this for many years. And we've been creating these programs and innovating, and all of the preparation we've done has helped us during these times. So here are some examples of things that we've done to prepare for this new normal. One is all of our universities have been capacity building and training in online learning. edX has many online courses on online learning and teaching. You can go to edX, and if you Google or search for teaching online on edX, you'll find many courses being offered both in Spanish and in English on our platform. And so we've been helping build capacity. edX also provides training for our partner universities. So that's one. Second, I talked about modular credentials. We've been inventing and innovating in modular credentials. Many of you offer Microbachelor'S and Micromasters programs. Tech de Monterrey, for example, recently announced some very innovative Micromasters programs. We talked about stackable credentials, where these modular certificates stack up towards a full degree, another big innovation. We talked about credit networks, where credit for programs can come from other universities, where we share and create a networked credit economy. That is also a big innovation. We talked about blended learning. We've been building blended learning and features for blended learning and experience with blended learning for many years. Many of our partners who are in this audience have been using blended learning on their campuses, where they use their online course to also help teach on campus. And of course, we're now coming into a new world where lifelong learning is becoming very important, where people will be learning throughout life, not just during a small amount of time. As you looked at a survey, 58% of learners were learning online, learning something new. 25% of them already had a job and they wanted to upskill. And so people will be blending life and work much more to prepare for the future of work. So in closing, we have been preparing for the new normal for many years. And this new normal is a good thing. Blended learning on campus, online learning while you're at work, lifelong learning, this is all part of a new normal. And what COVID-19 has done is accelerated it, turbocharged it. This was all happening, but happening somewhat slowly. What COVID-19 has done is suddenly accelerated it. You saw the inverted pan curve, where we went from 0 to 100%, and that acceleration has happened. So now is the moment for true transformation of education. And particularly for this audience and this group at LW MOOCs, you are the innovators. You are the transformational forces at your universities and companies and campuses. And so together, let us make it happen by working together and accelerating these things at the campus. We can bring together the new normal faster and make sure it lasts. Thank you.
Thank you, Anant. That was a great presentation. I believe we've got time for a few questions, and I saw that James had a question early in the chat. So James?
Yeah, I just wanted to know, and thank you, Anant, for a great talk. I have a short talk I give tomorrow, and you gave me some great ideas, so thank you. When you're talking about having a MOOC count for credit at a university, that's part of what I'm talking about tomorrow. And I want to know how much back-end, can you scale those classes out without adding a lot of TAs? Is there a support staff that needs to be added to scale, or have you got a model where you can scale classes without adding humans? Thank you.
For most, thank you for the question, James. I'm delighted you're talking about the blended model and credit. Frankly, I do need to give a shout out to Arizona State University in, I think it was 2013, when ASU and edX launched Global Freshman Academy, where for the first time, a MOOC was awarded credit. So huge credit to the innovators at ASU. To your point, can we scale up the courses? Yes, most courses can be scaled up because we have auto graders that do all the grading. But the one, we've addressed many challenges since 2013 when we began offering courses for MOOCs. One was virtual proctoring. So we implemented the virtual proctoring so that we don't have to have a teaching assistant somehow sit down with the students to monitor the progress. With virtual proctoring, we've had exams on edX where thousands of students have been taking the exam simultaneously, and virtual proctoring scales beautifully and monitors the students so that there is no cheating going on. And so all of these technologies really enable scale. For microbachelor's programs, we also have partnered with a company called Inside Track. What Inside Track will do is they provide mentors. And as the class size grows, they will provide additional mentors so that people can also have personal help. So many of these courses, frankly, most of these courses scale nicely. And since the grading is automatic, the virtual proctoring is automatic, but you don't have to necessarily scale the number of teaching assistants as the class size grows.
Hi, Anand. Also, another question from the public. You talk about unbundling and then creating new pathways for the learners. But there are thousands of universities around the world. What will be your advice to many of these universities that might be interested on, building these learning blocks, if you like, or micro credentials? Any advice for the universities at large?
I firmly believe that modular stackable learning will become the new normal. And so if you're a university around the world, you should think about doing several things. One, you should move towards a new normal and adopt towards blended learning for your campuses. You should create some of your own online courses, and you can also have your students sign up for online courses on online platforms, just like you use textbooks. edX Online Campus is one example. You can go and sign up your students and take the courses for your students online. So one is you should develop your own courses and your own capacity building. And there's many courses on edX that will teach you how to develop online courses. Second, you need to move towards blended learning on your campus and have your students learn the stuff. And by the way, learning online is a skill. It's different from taking courses online. And you know what? We've launched a course on edX on how to learn online. It's a one week, you can take the course in a few hours. It's how to learn online. And then third, I think we need to expand our credit networks where you can sign up and say, hey, look, I'm going to give credit for this microbachelor's program, or I'm going to give credit for this micromasters program. And already today, for our micromasters program, we have almost 100 universities around the world that are giving credit for many of our micromasters. And these networks will become bigger. Frankly, in the next 3 to 5 years, I would like to see 10,000 universities begin giving credit for microbachelors and micromasters, so we can build these big credit networks where a student can take a course and get credit at the university. So I think a university leadership can do that. They can say, look, we will give you credit if you take these courses. So these are my pieces of advice for the campuses around the world.
Thank you very much. Any further questions?
Do you mind if I ask a follow-up?
You know, I just, you know what, please do. I also noticed a question in chat, so I'll.
Oh, well, go ahead. Go ahead with the question in chat then, sorry.
No, the chat might be a little bit orthogonal. So why don't you go ahead if it's a follow-up?
Well, just real quick. So when you talk about using auto-graders, isn't there still like some need for a human component in giving feedback to the students on how they did? Or have you written that into, like we have auto-graders for a class that I run where we actually do a pretty good job of giving feedback. But have you really eliminated the human component in scalability of MOOCs?
Not completely, which is why I said for most courses, auto-graders can scale beautifully. However, you have many courses where you have a writing component where the writing is like you write an essay, for instance. Now, edX does have a prototype machine learning based essay grader, but again, it's not, it's still in prototype form. It'll be a few more years before we get there. For those, for feedback, one of the primary mechanisms that is used is peer learning, where students can grade each other's work and provide feedback to each other's students. In fact, the University of British Columbia built a new educational tool on edX called peer instruction. What peer instruction does is that enables students to write an essay or a paragraph and submit the answer. Then students give feedback to each other. And then as a student, I look at the feedback that I've been given. I can revise what I've written and resubmit it. And when I resubmit it, then you know, the peers can look at it again and likely provide the grading. So our Arizona State University writing course, professional writing, is again there's a lot of peer feedback and so on that happens in that. But ultimately, if you truly want, let's say, an essay to count for credit, if you want to be absolutely rigid about it, then what you can do, so for some of our master's degrees on edX, what happens is that there will be a teaching assistant or a faculty member that will actually grade it. And what happens there is that you only grade a very specific thing. So you're not grading everything by hand, but you can hand grade only a small piece. So on edX, for example, hand grading is part of the platform. So students can submit their work and a piece of the work can be hand graded. And so that, of course, will limit scalability where you have to assign additional teaching assistants. But the beauty is that because only grading one thing or two things, then you can just focus on grading that. And so it is not too, it doesn't provide too much overhead. There's a follow-up question from Christina, who said, how do you avoid group cheating on peer review activities? You know, frankly, even at universities, how do you avoid cheating when people work in groups? You have group assignments, you have group projects. How do you prevent cheating? And so you don't. It's meant as a learning exercise and you provide some grade, but it's meant as learning. At MIT, I tell students that for their homeworks, you can collaborate on the homeworks. And so you eliminate cheating by encouraging collaboration. And so now students are collaborating and learning from each other. And if you want to assign a grade, then maybe you have to have a final exam or something. And you can do that online where most of it is auto-graded, but some pieces might be hand-graded. So that would be the way around it. So another question on in the chat. You know, I agree with Anant that this is the future of education, but I'm worried that it will increase the digital divide. The discrepancy between different countries and education systems, you know, the divide will happen more. You know, I've heard both sides of the argument that creating more digital learning will create bigger divides. I am of the belief that providing more digital learning will narrow the divide. In India, for example, when cell phones first came out, everybody was saying, oh my God, initially only the rich people had cell phones. And remember, the very first cell phones were big and they had to be bolted to a car. So unless you had a car, you did not have a mobile phone. And so India, very few people had a car in the mid-80s. And so phones were viewed as a very expensive thing. But today, you find everybody in India has a smartphone. I saw this image of a kid driving a bullock cart with with a whip and with a bullock driving the cart, and he was watching a cell phone, a smartphone. And so the poorest of the poor now have smartphones all over the world. So I think digital technology has narrowed the divide between the rich and the poor. Similarly, I think by making effective education, high quality education available to everybody, you don't have to go attend Tec de Monterrey or Cordoba or Galileo or Valencia. You don't have to attend one of these top universities in order to be able to get a good education. You can be anywhere in the world, and you can be learning from other universities and so on. And my hope is that by online education, we will democratize education and get things done together.